few years ago, I found myself in the middle of a conflict with a friend of mine. And I was very frustrated, she was very frustrated. None of us really understood what was going on. And at some point I was so frustrated that I left the room and went outside and stood there in it was a moonlight. The sky was clear and I looked up into the sky and I asked, but why? And in that moment an answer came to me, and it was this voice in my head saying, you are nothing. And along with those words came the realization that our conflict was all about the two of us wanting the other one to reflect the story we had made about ourselves. For me, it was the fact that I wanted her to see me in a special way, the way I saw myself, but she didn't. She kept pointing at things that I didn't want to look into, and that upset me. And she was upset because I didn't see her in the way she wanted me to. And that realization has turned out to be one of the most important ones that I have had in my life, because it doesn't stop there. As you sink into the awareness, into the ocean of limitless consciousness, you peel off layers. And eventually you enter a vast stillness, an empty space. And in that moment, you are nothing. There is nothing. Only empty, endless space. And so you are nothing can be understood in many ways, and it's very profound actually. But for most of us, it's important to realize that when we are born, we are pretty much born into this world as an empty box. And as we grow up, we identify ourselves with the stories that we tell about us or the world around us, and we label everything. And we put those labels into our empty box. Eventually, we have to force the lid on if we want all those labels to fit in there. It can be anything. It can be, I'm a good parent. It can be, I'm not good at math. I fear the darkness. Any kind of label can be put into that empty box. But that's not who you are. But as long as you identify yourself with those labels, you think that's what you are. And so as your journey begins into the awakened state and beyond, you have to look at each label and let them go, because that's not who you are. And so over time, you'll realize that many of your conflicts, many of the things that you meet in life, actually everything you meet in life, that turns into a conflict or a problem, something you're afraid of, is all connected to what labels you put into your box. You're not free till the time that your box is empty. And you realize that you are nothing. That's a huge freedom. It's an amazing freedom. It's a direct experience of God awareness. And so how do we let go of all those labels? How do we not stop identifying ourselves with these labels? And one way of doing it is to constantly return to that space that I call the center. Every time you meet something and you realize something that is not pleasant or that upsets you in any way, it's possible for you to breathe yourself back into the center, to that place where you realize that this is nothing but a label. You can breathe until you are in that place of stillness, the empty space between the inhale and the exhale, where you can lean into that enormous heart of the universe that turns out to be your own heart, that turns out to be the only heart there is, and your access point into the stillness. So lean in there and know that you are completely free. For me, I've also used I've been analyzing a lot about what was going on. Always realizing that everything I met was nothing but a mirror of my inside, of something inside me. So when I heard myself, you are like this, you are like that, I challenged myself and I said, okay, now I'm gonna exchange you with I. And I had to look at that every time and realize that it was true. What I saw in the other, I had in me. That can be an ongoing process. It can take a long time to accept all your stories, to forgive all your stories. And sometimes it can be fast too. Because if you're able to step into that center and let go, there's no need to look and analyze every situation, is there? You can just go in there where you're nothing. And that's why today I'm trying to show people into that place, because I know from that place everything else will follow. And that's not because I don't encourage people to have some self-reflection. I just know that the other way around, it's much more direct way to enter this space of stillness. So go to the center first. Breathe. Be present. And from that place, everything else will follow. And you'll be shown, you'll be told, and you'll meet the lessons in life that you can meet with much more ease from that place. So remember that you are nothing. And as soon as you start to think that you are someone or something, that you can do special things or you know stuff, remember you're nothing. Remember that that's why you get into conflicts, that's why you get into problems. It's because of those stories. They're not reflected back to you. The ego gets upset and it wants to change it. It wants to force the reality, the so-called reality, to reflect its story. And when it's not possible, you get very upset. So I invite you to use a breathing technique where you sit comfortably and start making your breathing a bit longer. And every time you breathe in and out, you make the breath a bit longer. And be totally aware of that breath as you breathe in. And then there's a small break and you breathe out. And there's a small break as well. And you breathe in, and every time you breathe in and out, you make that breath a little bit longer, a little bit deeper. And you'll realize also that the break in between the breath is getting a little longer. And in that moment when your breath is silent, in that small break, you can use that as your exit point or your entrance point into that empty space. So if you sit with your eyes closed and you feel like in that small break there, you lean in. You lean into your own heart, or if you're lucky enough to have a master around, you can lean into the master or the whatever name you would call that consciousness or that space, that one space that is all there is. And you can sit like that for as long as you like, sinking deeper and deeper into the ocean of consciousness. And so as it becomes a habit for you, you'll realize that that's also your help when you meet situations in your daily life. Yeah, and that was what I wanted to share with you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again sometime. Bye.